Hey, do you want to talk about lost characters? Oh, I know you do. So lost characters. These are characters who've been lost throughout movies, TV shows, video games, you know, all that good stuff. I'm your host, Zeep. We have a good assortment of characters to talk about today. Please subscribe. It would be very well appreciated. And if you want a sequel to this, get this to 5,000 likes. I love you all. Let's get straight into it. Roxanne. Yeah, we're getting back to the Goofy movie again. You already know my thoughts about this film. Fantastic, it's quintessential 90s, but a character who's really been lost, besides Max from the Goofy movie, is Roxanne. Now, in my previous Lost Characters episode, when discussing the Goofy movie, I covered more of the father and son aspect of it, but today I'm going to cover the romance aspect between Max and Roxanne, to try and differentiate things. So let's look at this chronologically. Way back in the 1990s to early 2000s, there was something called the Disney Adventures magazine. Which, as a side note, I actually do remember these. If you even just take a glance at the covers, they're one of the most 2000s things you've ever seen. Essentially, Disney's Adventures had a Goof Troop comic series. A comic series that actually serves as a prequel to a Goofy movie. It is revealed here that throughout the school year, Max was actually making attempts to try and impress Roxanne and get a date with her. Such moves of trying to impress her include the both of them getting attacked by a monkey, which turns out to just actually be Bobby. Max trying to impress Roxanne by handling a python only to just pass out because of one, with Roxanne having to step in and use her perfume to do away with the snakes. So the school year goes on and eventually comes to an end, which takes us to the events of a Goofy movie, and where Max finally builds up the courage to ask Roxanne out on a date, only to get owned by his dad by forcing Max to go on a road trip with him. Not wanting to reveal Roxanne the truth about why he has to skip out on the date, he chooses to lie instead and says he's going to be at the concert with Powerline. Max is afraid because he thinks Roxanne only likes him for being popular for the moment. By the end of the movie, when Max actually does make it to Powerline by extraordinary events, he goes back to Roxanne's house to tell her the truth, that none of that was actually planned. With Roxanne forgiving Max and stating that she really liked Max just for being Max. This should be a happy ending, right? That both of them like each other. Well, this is when Roxanne's appearances become pretty sparse. Okay, so a Goofy movie comes out, it's based, it's awesome. 5 years later, an extremely Goofy movie comes out. It's also based, it's awesome. It's another nice father and son type of movie. Problem that some people have with it is that Roxanne does not appear in this film at all. Well, in order to understand what happened to her, we have to look at the Disney canon. Okay, so after the events of a Goofy movie, the summer is over and the new school year began. It can be assumed at this point that Max and Roxanne had been going on multiple dates, but weren't an official couple yet. In a 1997 French Disney magazine, Max heads out to buy a bouquet of roses as a birthday present for Roxanne, when all of a sudden, PJ and Max discover Roxanne kissing another guy, with the other guy asking Roxanne to be his girlfriend, with Roxanne accepting his offer. At that point, Max thinks it's over. He has a nightmare. Even his dad is taking a picture of the both of them being a couple. It's literally just done for Max, until it is revealed that this entire thing was actually set up for a school play that was happening later on in the year. Max basically thinks to himself, oh thank God we're back, and everything is good news until Roxanne is seen sad, because her co-star had gotten sick right before the play. Max offers to take his place for the play, to which Roxanne obliges. They then both meet up on stage, go off script, with Max about to say he loves Roxanne before he's interrupted and kissed by her, with Roxanne finishing it off by saying, me too, Max. So at that point you'd probably be like, okay, they're a couple. Alright, so now it's a happy ending. Dude, even the DuckTales reboot shows that the both of them went to prom together. They have to have a happy ending, right? Well, some things aren't meant to last. In the events of the film Mickey's Twice Upon a Christmas, released in 2004, Max is seen to have a new lady friend who he's hoping to make his new girlfriend. Word that his dad is going to make a fool of himself again, even stating how it was with Roxanne. At this point, Max is a young adult, supposedly after the events of an extremely Goofy movie. Now at this point, I'm just interpreting how I see it here. Max and Roxanne, they were high school sweethearts. But as said before, some things aren't just meant to last forever. Yes, they did say they loved each other when they were like sophomores in high school. Hell, the relationship probably lasted a while, because in the House of Mouse, Max and Roxanne are seen on a date, with Max being the teenage counterpart of himself. We don't know what happened, but whatever it was, it led to them no longer being together. Yes, it's a cartoon relationship, I do realize that. But while doing research for this character, I need you guys to realize that when it comes to these two as a couple, people absolutely loved them together. Roxanne's last voice appearance was in A House of Mouse in an episode that came out in 2002. It's been 22 years since these two have truly been seen together. Maybe that's just their permanent fate. But something that I've realized while doing this series is that people love their lost characters. And with enough declaration and fan clamoring, maybe one day we'll see these two together once again, this time with their adult counterparts, reminiscing about their high school days. A special thanks to Finn the Kid in the Second for recommending Roxanne. Let's get to the next one. Porygon from the Pokemon anime. Now yes, ever since his introduction in Generation 1, Porygon has been in many Pokemon games since the very beginning, but when it comes to the Pokemon anime, he is absent. And the reasoning for this is, well, pretty bad. On April 1st, 1997, the Pokemon anime premiered to great success. I mean, it was pretty epic. You had Ash dealing with a bitchy Pikachu, him letting go of his Butterfree in one of like the most emotionally damaging episodes of all time, eventually capping off the first year of the show with the episode title, Electric Soldier Porygon. So the episode follows Ash and crew traveling into cyberspace, an area in which Porygon could transfer into. In order to fix the Pokemon transmitting device, which is being affected by Team Rocket and crew, the crew is navigated by Porygon, doing nothing but to help. Once Porygon is able to defeat Team Rocket, Nurse Joy, who is monitoring the situation, sends an antivirus program into the computer without knowing that Ash and crew are in there. In order to save the crew from the antivirus missiles, Pikachu uses Thunderbolt, leading to a large explosion. An explosion resulting in flashing red and blue lights. And I cannot show that explosion here. Almost immediately after the release of this episode, which had 4 million people watching, Japan's Fire Defense Agency reported that 685 viewers were taken to the hospital by ambulances, with some people even suffering blurred vision, headaches, dizziness, and nausea, while a specific few suffered seizures, blindness, and convulsions. Although a lot of the victims recovered in the ambulance trip, there were around 150 people who were admitted to hospitals, with the incident then being referred to as the Pokemon Shock by the Japanese press. In the immediate aftermath, video rental shops all throughout Japan removed the Pokemon anime from their shelves, with TV Tokyo, the television station that had broadcasted the episode, apologizing to their viewers. It was so bad that Nintendo's stock exchange dropped almost 3.2% because of the negative attention the company was getting, with the president of Nintendo even coming out and saying that the video game company was not responsible for the Pokemon games. Back over in the West, America refused to ever air the episode. However, that did not mean that Americans didn't know what happened. The incident was lampooned by other cartoons, such as The Simpsons and South Park, poking fun at the incident. The Pokemon anime was pulled from circulation for 4 months, with multiple episodes being heavily edited that contained flashing lights. Fans were concerned that this would lead to the end of the Pokemon anime, with Ash Ketchum's story ending in the year 1997. Of course, this wasn't the case. Pokemon in Japan was widely successful. The anime was a hit, and when it came to bringing it to the States, 4Kids Entertainment announced that they would be bringing over Pokemon in 1998, ensuring that all the flashing effects were removed. This incident was a complete tragedy. However, the Pokemon who gets the blame for all of it, despite not even doing anything that leads to the flashing lights in the episode, it's Porygon. Outside of very brief cameos, which just display an image of Porygon, Porygon has not appeared in the anime since. This can be said about the same thing about Porygon's evolutions, Porygon 2, which would be in Generation 2, and Porygon Z, which would be in Generation 4. Porygon has become a lost character for something that he didn't even do. It's a shame because I actually think Porygon's really cool. He's one of my favorite Pokemon. I've always loved the designs in his evolution line. But since 1997, there has never been an episode focused on Porygon. And I understand. Although he may have not caused the incident, his association with it is still there. Despite this, fans have argued for Porygon to come back. In fact, on September 19th of 2020, the official Pokemon Twitter account made a bizarre reference to the lost episode, saying that Porygon did nothing wrong, with the tweet eventually being deleted. Honestly, I agree with the Twitter account. Porygon didn't do anything wrong. They took the fall for an incident which was awful, but not their fault. By that logic, Pikachu, who's one of the most identifiable cartoon characters in the world, should have been removed from the anime series, since he was the one who actually did it. But of course, I'm not arguing for that. The show literally had to go on. Of course, you can't have Pokemon without Pikachu, but you can definitely have Pokemon without Porygon. I'm arguing Porygon should still be there in some way. With Ash's journey coming to an end in 2023, I think now would be the most appropriate time than ever for Porygon to get one more appearance. One that helps redeem their character. A thank you to the commenter, No Context Love Live, for suggesting this character. But before we get into that, let's talk about today's sponsor for this video, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online community with thousands of classes made to help you to pursue your passions of being a creator. They have classes that teach you how to edit videos, alongside other classes that show you how to better manage your time and to produce more videos. It really contains whatever you need to become that creator you want to be and to go beyond that. This year I'm hoping to manage my time better, and with Skillshare, they offer a class that helps me do exactly that. I've been watching Ali Abdaal's lessons, which helps productivity for creators, including how to organize and encourage workflow. Remember, no goal is too small. We all get there one step at a time. Skillshare is there to help you every step of the way. The first 1,000 people who go and use the link in the description will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare to take as many classes as you need to pursue that dream of yours. Click the link in the description, and thanks to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. South Park. I've had so many characters requested from this series. And when it comes to me in South Park, well, I really loved it as a kid. Yeah, I know, not the most appropriate time to watch it, but so did millions of other kids as well. Eric Cartman's dad. Here's the thing about Eric Cartman's dad. He's had multiple of them throughout the series, but one of them isn't canonical to the entire show. Just going by the name Cartman's father, he only has a brief appearance in the pilot episode of the show. The unaired pilot was the original version of the first episode of the show, Cartman Gets an Anal Probe. Made in the summer of 1996, its context contains a few extended scenes, including a scene in where Kenny comes back to life, unusual I know, a scene of aliens barbecuing cows. There's nothing really much else interesting about this unaired pilot, besides the fact that cows cry is kind of funny.
There, Kyle.
And also, we get a glimpse of Eric Cartman's rejected family that only appears in this episode, including his father and sister. His father has curly gray hair, a mustache, wearing a light blue short-sleeved shirt with yellow pants, and he has no lines at all. According to Trey Parker and Matt Stone, the family was removed from the main pilot as they believed Eric didn't need a large family. This actually served very well when it came to the main show, as Eric and his relationship with his mom provides comedy gold later on in the series, and also led to some of the greatest mysteries of the show, surrounding who was Eric's true father. For 12 seasons of the show, Cartman believed that his mom was a hermaphrodite, meaning that she was also his biological father. He was, believe it or not, wrong. In one of the first South Park episodes, the show teases the reveal of Cartman's father.
Is it the 1991 Denver Broncos?
Believe it or not, it was the answer of the Denver Broncos that turned out to be true. In the South Park episode, Scott Tournament Must Die, Cartman gets upset over Scott, leading to Cartman to kill his parents and force feed them to Scott. In the episode 200, Scott gets revenge and force feeds chili to Cartman's mouth, revealing that his father was also part of the Denver Broncos, and also stating that Cartman killed his own father. Cartman doesn't really seem to care that he killed his own dad, more so that it's revealed that he's half ginger. An interesting thing about this reveal is that it's from a lost episode, an episode that can never be shown on TV ever again due to the Prophet Muhammad's, or lack thereof, depiction in this two-parter episode. Believe it or not, I actually watched these two episodes when they aired way back in the day, and they are seriously some of the best episodes in the entire series. A perfect celebration of the entire show. Unfortunately, after the release of this episode, both Trey and Matt faced death threats for a website organization known as the Revolution Muslim, in which they warned that Parker and Stone would face the same fate as filmmaker Theo Van Gogh, who was murdered over a documentary he created about Islamic societies. The story went national, with various journalists defending Trey and Matt Stone, ranging from CNN, Fox News, and The Daily Show. I know, I may have gotten a little off topic when it comes to Eric Cartman's dad, but I have to be honest, there's nothing else I can say about him. He just sits there mindlessly. So, with that being said, I know that there are much more interesting Lost South Park characters, but I should just get to the next Lost character. I'll be sure to come back to this one someday. Speedee. So the other day I went to Downey, California to take a visit to the oldest McDonald's in the world. Now don't be mistaken, this wasn't the first McDonald's ever. That would be in San Bernardino in 1940. This is just the oldest one in the chain to still exist. Back in the 1940s, the McDonald's brothers developed a system to reduce the time it takes to serve food, calling it the Speedee service system. The McDonald's brothers were insane. They created what fast food is today. Their Speedee service system limited the menu to prioritize hamburgers. Burgers would come out quick, in such a speedy fashion, hence the mascot's name, Speedee. In 1954, Ray Kroc, a man who would visit the McDonald's to say hello to the McDonald's brothers to hand them a couple milkshake makers, was in awe over what the McDonald's brothers had managed to create. He convinced the brothers to franchise McDonald's and expand from coast to coast. First, they franchised into Illinois, and Kroc wanted to go even further, but the McDonald's brothers continued to stress that they wanted to maintain a small number of restaurants and to not overextend its reach throughout the United States. Kroc, on the other hand, thought McDonald's could go way bigger. For years, the brothers would feud with Ray Kroc, until the year 1961, when Kroc finally bought the company for $2.7 million. Ray Kroc, to this day, is widely considered the founder of McDonald's, but the true origin of McDonald's, in my eyes, is right here, with Speedee. And to the actual creators, the McDonald's brothers. The grandkids of the McDonald's brothers state that Ray Kroc promised a 0.5% royalty of all proceeds regarding the McDonald's company, which would all be paid back to the McDonald's brothers. However, according to their grandsons, they did not receive a single cent. As I sit here eating my Big Mac, staring at that bright Speedee neon sign, I take Speedee as symbolism of McDonald's before the franchisement, an era of the original founders, the McDonald's brothers. Speedee was a man with a chef hat on top of a hamburger. Sure, it was a very simple design, but I think definitely a product of its time. I genuinely love Speedee. Eventually, he would be replaced by Ronald McDonald in 1967, but for the time period he did exist, he symbolized the beginnings of a fast food joint that just wanted to keep things simple. Anyways, let's get on to one of my favorite lost characters ever covered in this series. This is Aperture Science's lost hero, Doug Rattmann. When it comes to the Portal series, I've always been enamored by it. Ever since first playing it with Portal 1 way back in 2007, I was only 8 years old. I would play it with my brother on the orange box. Although it is a admittedly really short game, it took me a long while to finish it because puzzle solving wasn't really my strong suit. That being said, what kept me going was the dialogue by GLaDOS, the soothing calmness of just going through the labs, and of course, the remarkable gameplay. What really enamored me the most was our silent protagonist, Chell. Every now and then while playing through the game, you'd catch a reflection of yourself, and I just wondered what her personality was like. How did she even get here in the first place? This question would remain unanswered for years. Of course, just judging from Portal 1, you'd have to guess that, well, I mean, she's just a test subject. But the lore surrounding Portal went much more deeper than that. Throughout Portal 1, you'd see random scribblings, all on the walls. When GLaDOS promised cake at the end of these tests, one of the scribblings went against that and said that the cake was a lie. These murals left my little kid mind to just wander. I would be like, who was writing these? Eventually, in 2011, I would get my answer. Right before the release of Portal 2 in April of 2011, my brother would exclaim to me to check out Portal 2, Lab Rat, a comic serving as a precursor to the second video game. For context, Aperture Science for decades was constructing the artificial intelligence, GLaDOS. Whenever GLaDOS was activated, she would begin to act aggressive and would attempt to attack the scientists who helped develop her. When it came to Doug Rattmann, he was able to work with other scientists, but struggled to open up, for he dealt with his own personality disorders, including schizophrenia. To combat his disorder, he would take medication. But without his medication, he would begin to distort reality from fabrications in his mind. Doug increasingly became more and more paranoid, eventually talking to his fellow scientist, Henry, about the dangers of GLaDOS. Henry argued with Doug, arguing that the GLaDOS project was the next big step for humanity. Eventually, Doug and Henry worked together to develop the Morality Core, a core that once installed into GLaDOS would change her personality and encourage her not to kill. Doug once again had his reservations, arguing that GLaDOS' conscience could easily be ignored. When GLaDOS asked for neurotoxin to conduct an experiment, Henry obliged her, leading to all hell to break loose. Neurotoxin was flooded all throughout the Aperture Science labs, killing most of the scientists, with Doug only barely managing to escape. GLaDOS would look into Doug's files, discovering that he was schizophrenic. She would then try to manipulate Doug to come out of hiding, and that the deaths of all of his peers were all fabrications within his mind. Doug knew better. He realized that the remaining scientists who were alive were forced into experiments filled with turrets and poisonous sludge, leading to the deaths of all of them. Realizing that GLaDOS knew all about Doug because of looking in his files, Doug got the idea to look at files of potential test subjects who would be able to save him from certain doom. That is where he found Chell, and pushed her test subject status all the way to the top. Eventually, Chell awakened, and Rattmann followed Chell all throughout the events of the first Portal game with his companion cube. Doug always had these 2 emergency pills that would serve to combat his disorder, that he would save in an event of an emergency. Without the pills, Doug developed a friendship with the companion cube. believing that it was talking to him. However, instead of this being a negative, this served to be a positive, as the companion cube would turn out to be all of Doug's logical thoughts being relayed back to him. The companion cube would allow Doug to follow Chell all throughout the labs and protect him from all of the dangers. Doug had so much faith for Chell, even helping Chell to avoid certain death by dismissing GLaDOS's illusions of a fake cake party that would actually take the test subject into an incineration room. Doug was able to warn Chell that she was actually a lab rat, destined for death since the beginning. Once Chell was able to destroy GLaDOS at the end of Portal 1, and the entirety of Aperture comes crumbling down, Doug takes his emergency pills, and he's finally set free. Finally, after years, he arrives to the surface, and he's free at last. However, Doug looks over and sees Chell being dragged away by Aperture's party escort bot, taking her back to her Cairo cube, in which she will sleep until she is forced to be a test subject once again. And this is when a hero is created. Despite finally reaching the surface, he realizes that he can't let Chell go through this once again. After a quick argument with his companion cube about not going back, Doug knows that he owes his life to Chell, although Chell doesn't even know he exists. Doug races back into the facility in an effort to try and stop Chell from entering back into the Cairo cube. However, on the way over, he notices that his companion cube begins to die away. Since he took the pills, the schizophrenic voices in his head began to dissipate, leading to the companion cube to dissipate as well, with the companion cube saying that soon, that Doug won't need him anymore, with Doug replying saying he'll always need them. Doug finds Chell once more. Seeing that he's too late, Chell is back into sleep. Back with just his thoughts, he realizes that GLaDOS's destruction led to the compromise of all life support in the cryo centers. On the way over to try and rescue Chell from this slow death, he comes across a couple turrets who are still activated despite GLaDOS's demise. Without the help of his companion cube to guide him through the turrets, he makes a run for it. He almost manages to escape them until he's shot by a turret bullet. He begins to crawl over to a screen. He realizes that he's failed to a degree, but in his moments before he loses consciousness, he's able to turn back life support to the cryo cubes, ensuring Chell to stay alive. This is when his medication begins to rub off, and he begins to hear his cube again, saying that he deserves to rest for everything that he's done. Although he wasn't able to save himself, at least he's able to know that there could be hope for the future for Chell to escape. We do not know the fate of Doug Rattmann, whether he died or whether he was able to live to see the day of finally escaping this damn laboratory. And between you and me, I don't think we'll ever know. What makes it even more tragic is that Chell will have no idea that she was actually saved by this man. A man who went to hell and back to keep her alive. In Portal 2, while traveling the labs, Chell finds one mural, a beautiful elaborate artwork of Chell sleeping. Surrounding this area, you can hear the ramblings of Rattmann. Perhaps he is still alive. Perhaps he woke up around the same time Chell did, just in time for the second game, and is once again following Chell. Who knows? Doug Rattmann is one of my favorite Lost characters I have ever covered in this series. Portal 1 and 2 mean a lot to me. In 2011, a week before the release of Portal 2, I got so hyped up after reading these comics, I was hoping for some sort of answer surrounding his fate. But honestly, as a full decade has gone by, I think it's best that I don't know. It adds to the mystery of his character, and the tragedy of what he had to go through. Doug Rattmann, hopefully, you made it out okay. Thank you for watching, subscribe, I love all of you guys. See ya soon!